Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I think most folks who said they would attend are here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Madeline. I'm the director of the mentoring program. I'm actually here with the mentoring team and also my co-presenter, Elizabeth Day.
Hi, everyone.
And Elizabeth is Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at College Now. So to give you a quick overview of what we're going to cover, first we are going to give you a little bit of information generally on what SAYS education is, and then we're going to follow that up with SAYS specifically in Cleveland. Okay, there we go. And then we'll follow up with that with mentoring and SAYS. So specifically, what are the impacts on our mentoring program, and of course you all as mentors involved in the program. And of course, we'll have time for Q&A as well. But if you do have questions as we go, we went over presenters, you can either raise your hand or type a question in the box, and we will keep an eye on that as we go. So again, if you do have a question, let us know as we go throughout, and there will be time at the end as well. All right. Now I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth.
Okay, so hi everybody. Hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm just going to give some brief information about what SAYS is and how the community's been kind of leading up to the launch, which was a few weeks ago. I have participated on the communications task force that was part of the larger effort bringing SAYS to Cleveland for the last 2.5 years. And so SAYS is a nonprofit based in New York. It was founded by a man named George Weiss, whose parents were Holocaust survivors. He grew up with very little, was a first-generation college student, and he made his way to Wharton for school and decided that if he ever made it big and had the means, he would dedicate himself to helping other students access higher education. And so the way that started was in 1987, he kind of created a promise program in Philadelphia where he told 100+ sixth graders that if they made it through high school, he would handle paying for their college. And he also said he would work to remove whatever barriers were standing in those students' way. So if they needed eyeglasses, he took them to the eye doctor and paid for the glasses. If their parents were almost being evicted, he helped, he stepped in and got them legal help and helped them manage that process. So SAYS eventually evolved into this kind of system that provided these really intensive student-specific wraparound services. And the program that first cohort had a lot of success, and so he expanded it to a couple other, classes, and then it grew to be kind of community-wide programs. And so there are cohort chapters in Philadelphia, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Hartford, Connecticut, and Harlem, and there are community-wide chapters in Syracuse, in Buffalo, New York, Guilford County, North Carolina, and now Cleveland. And so the cohort-based program is more like taking a class, whereby the community-wide chapter program really focuses on all of the students in a particular school district. So with SAYS coming to Cleveland, that means that all students who reside in Cleveland in the CMSD footprint can be eligible for the wraparound services from pre-K through 12th grade, and then be eligible for a tuition-based scholarship for post-secondary education. As I mentioned, it really is about kind of a student-centric system, and so there's a lot of data that SAYS collects about each individual student and what they need and where they are in their process. And then at the end of their K-12 career, they can either access the SAYS scholarship through applying to and being enrolled in an Ohio public college or university, or one of more than 100 Say Yes compact private institutions. And the scholarship has been a really exciting thing for Cleveland. We had to really do a heavy lift prior to launch to make sure that we raised at least 60% of the scholarship endowment fund of $125 million, and we did better than that. So far, over $90 million has been raised towards that, and that will fund scholarships for Cleveland students for 2 generations for 25 years. It's really meant to break the cycle of poverty. And so the funds that are raised in the community for this endowment are the scholarship that students who enroll in the public schools will access. If a student attends one of the higher education compact, the Say Yes compact schools, those institutions, depending on income, so if a student's over $75,000 a year for family income, they will get a $5,000 scholarship from the community-wide endowment. If they're under $75,000 a year, those colleges just take the tuition off the table. They cover that. So it's a really exciting program that really was a huge community lift from city and county, the school district. We got the family engagement office at CMSD involved, the corporate community, philanthropic community, faith-based organizations. And again, we did a lot of work with the Ohio public higher education institutions on educating them through the process. And we added a few new private institutions to the Say Yes Higher Education Compact as we went through the process pre-launch. So some of the things that students can access as early as kindergarten, some of these wraparound services include tutoring, after school and summer programming, school-based medical care and mental health care, college admissions and financial aid advice, which is another big role that College Now specifically is going to be playing in Say Yes as we deliver college access and financial aid counseling services to the CMSD schools already, and also legal clinics for non-criminal issues. As I mentioned too, there is a lot of data that is collected about each student, and there are 14 milestones from K to 12 that are being monitored as students move through their process. And really what that is an early warning system for Say Yes and for CMSD and for the partners who are working directly with students to make sure that the students get the services that they need to be the most successful. And then again, it all kind of ends with the scholarship piece. And what's really exciting is that, we really anticipate that this is going to increase post-secondary enrollment significantly in Cleveland by removing this financial barrier that so many students have. And again, the requirements for the scholarship are, based on geography, based on CMSD enrollment, and they're based on family income. But as long as you meet the geographic and the enrollment piece, everybody gets something. It just depends on how much. So it really is, they were really trying to be as equitable as they could in the process.
We actually do have a few questions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first is, I work for the Aspire program at Cuyahoga Community College. We serve students who dropped out of CMSD high schools by offering GED high school equivalency classes. If students leave a CMSD high school, are they still eligible for Say Yes?
No, unfortunately, it has to be continuous enrollment from 9th grade through 12th grade.
And then another question, could you repeat the funding amount for ineligible colleges?
The funding amounts, sure. Again, it's based on an family income threshold of $75,000. So if a student is enrolling in an Ohio public institution and their family income is under $75,000, the Say Yes Cleveland Scholarship Fund will take care of their tuition and fees after their state and federal grants. If they're over $75,000, they are eligible for up to $5,000 scholarship from that Say Yes Cleveland Scholarship Fund. I don't know the entire list of private institutions, but it's all on the Say Yes website, which is sayyescleveland.org. And it's, you know, Ohio private institutions, but institutions all across the country as well. So you can check those out. But again, the income threshold for the private schools is also $75,000. If a student is under that, the institution kind of waives their tuition from, you know, their endowment or however they choose to do it. And then if they're over $75,000, they get a $5,000 scholarship from the Say Yes Cleveland Scholarship Fund. So there's a little bit of nuance between the public and the private, because if they're at the public school, it's and over $75,000, it's up to $5,000. If they're at a private school, it is a flat $5,000. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, and then the last, actually we have another question just about that.
Okay.
All right, I was wondering if the Say Yes resources can be applied for CMSD students who attend community colleges after high school graduation.
They can. It has to be a Pell eligible, you know, community college, but in a lot of cases, particularly for low-income students, it's not the best use of those scholarship dollars, because there are 8 semesters of eligibility within a 5-year period after high school graduation. And so a student going to Tri-C, for example, might only owe like $13 or $100 or something, and then they might choose to, you know, transfer somewhere else. So they would lose, you know, if they choose to use that scholarship for, you know, a relatively small amount of money, they would lose the opportunity to use it later on when the cost is more significant. So there are advisors, and the CMSD counselors are being trained on how to advise students in those situations.
And Elizabeth, could you recap maybe quickly how long the student has to use the award, or what the...
Yeah, so a student has 5 years of eligibility after they graduate from high school. And then within those 5 years, they have 8 semesters worth of tuition that they can access, or the scholarship that they can access.
So hence the need to be strategic if you're
exactly
the 2 years.
Exactly.
Okay. And then does the program guarantee acceptance to a university?
It does not. It is contingent upon your being accepted to a Pell eligible post-secondary program. So, you know, 2-year, 4-year, or colleges and universities, Pell eligible trade programs. Say Yes does not help with admission. It is something that students can access after they've been accepted.
Okay. We also had a question, if it's a renewable scholarship. I think we sort of covered that, probably asked before.
Yeah, I mean, it is renewable within the 5-year window, up to 8 semesters.
All right, so I think we can continue.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions.
Yeah. So the way it's being rolled out is kind of staggered. And the first part is the scholarship piece for the class, the CMSD class of 2019. So that is what was really rolled out a few weeks ago in January, and more than half of the CMSD high school seniors have started the process of applying for the Say Yes scholarship, which is really exciting. Starting in the fall, the wraparound services are going to be rolled out in stages. So the first phase is going to start in fall 2019, and CMSD schools are going through an application process to be chosen as one of the 15% of schools that start with the full complement of wraparound services. Again, the scholarships are being distributed for the class of 2019, and so that first group of scholarship payments will go out in the fall. And then, you know, as the reason we're all here is that each of those students is going to be matched with a mentor in the mentoring program. You know, there are a lot of community organizations that provide services in CMSD, and there's been a process through which Say Yes in the community has inventoried what those services are and their effectiveness, and you know, there's an application on that side as well to be able to provide services in the schools moving forward. And so all of that is happening as we speak. There's a community committee called the Core Services Rollout Committee that is meeting regularly to flesh out that process. But again, some of the things that are going to be rolled out in the fall, in addition to the scholarship, are tutoring, after-school programming, summer programming, school-based medical and mental health care, and legal assistance. We kind of went through the scholarship guidelines, but I'm happy to do it again because it is very nuanced and people have lots of questions about it. The scholarship is only for tuition and fees, so room and board is not included. But room and board is something that they can use, potentially other sources of funding, other scholarships, or student loans if they need to. All of the Ohio public schools have signed on and signed agreements with Say Yes, saying that they will first not reduce the number of Cleveland students they're admitting now that they have, you know, entered into an agreement to pay for their tuition. So it won't affect acceptance numbers for CMSD students. So all of the Ohio public colleges are in. And then again, there are, I think it's 100, somewhere between 110 and 120 private higher education institutions across the country who have entered into agreements with Say Yes as well. And those agreements state that if a student with an income under $75,000 meets the admissions requirement and enrolls in that school, they will, you know, they'll receive full tuition and fees from the school. Again, the eligibility is 8 semesters within 5 years, whichever comes first. And again, there are eligibility requirements for the high school students. They have to have been enrolled in a CMSD high school since the 9th grade, and they have to live within the CMSD geographical footprint. And then, you know, we use their FAFSA to determine their income level to determine what the scholarship is.
Now, Elizabeth, are all of those requirements enforced this year for this incoming freshman class?
No. So for this freshman class, it is the enrollment requirement and the geographical requirement are as of January 18th, as of the launch. The seniors have to have been, and I believe it's, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the juniors too, right? Correct.
You have to be enrolled
as
of the announcement date,
right,
and living in the district.
Right, for juniors and seniors, and then then the full goes into effect for sophomores and freshmen.
Correct.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody from the announcement date has to be enrolled.
Yes.
Or.
Yeah.
And living in the district.
Yeah. So it is everybody who is currently enrolled in high school in a CMSD school and lives in the district is eligible. As of January 18th when we launched. For students who are currently in 8th grade and will be entering high school next year, they have to have lived within the district and be enrolled in the district for all 4 years.
Okay, and we have 2 questions that sort of are related to this.
Yep.
One is, do students have to maintain a GPA in college, any specific GPA for the scholarship?
They have to maintain the, you know, the satisfactory academic performance as dictated by their school.
All right, and can you clarify for private and public colleges participating in this program, who pays the cost of the Say Yes scholarship?
Sure. So for all of the public institutions, the scholarship the funding comes from the endowment that was raised by the community. So that $90 million against the $125 million goal. and the community is still fundraising to raise that last $30 million. For the private institutions, it's a little bit trickier. If your income is under $75,000, the school takes care of it. The higher education institution takes care of it. If they're over $75,000, they get $5,000 out of the community-raised $90 million scholarship fund.
Okay, and then to clarify, do different schools have different academic requirements then, as relating to the scholarship?
Satisfactory academic requirements.
Satisfactory academic requirements.
The satisfactory is empowered set by the federal government, but schools might have their own.
Sorry, satisfactory academic progress is federal guidelines from the Department of Education, but schools can also have their own enrollment criteria and financial scholarship criteria as well. So it's based on a federal program, but schools also have the flexibility to handle it the way they choose to do it. There's also appeals for students that do not meet satisfactory academic progress. So if a student doesn't meet it for one semester, they should appeal that decision, because often that can get approved. And they should talk to their financial aid office about how they should go about appealing that decision.
Okay, and one more, I think I missed earlier, I apologize. Is this program available to students enrolled in the charter school system?
Their partnering charter schools can be eligible, yes. CMSD recently changed its partnership agreements with charters, so a charter school would have to go through the CMSD process of becoming a partner charter, and then go through the Say Yes process for becoming a partner charter school. And that means signing data sharing agreements and that sort of thing. So yes, there is a pathway for charter students to access this as well, as long as their charter schools go through the appropriate processes. Yeah, and to Bob's point, there are no eligible partnering charters for 2019, 2020.
Okay, are students with half-ride scholarships ineligible? So we might want to address if students already have other scholarship dollars, what happens, and then if students are part-time, I'm not sure precisely what for students. Or the first class.
I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so the first thing is to get a scholarship, the student does have to be enrolled full-time, so that part-time students are not eligible for the program, so that's the first thing. Secondly, the Say Yes scholarship goes into effect after the Pell Grant and the state grant towards tuition. If the student has scholarships on top of the tuition, so for room and board, books, supplies, they can use those scholarships to cover those costs.
Okay. I think that's all for me. Okay. Are there any other questions related to general Say Yes and Say Yes Cleveland?
And we can also, you can feel free to ask at the end as well if you have something.
Yeah. So I'll turn it back over to Madeline.
Okay, sorry about that. We're back. We had minor technical difficulties there. I actually have to. Oh yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about how this is going to impact the mentoring program, and we have a nice graphic up there for you. You know how much we love our charts in the mentoring program, but this is sort of to give you a visual sense of how the program is going to grow. And of course, this 19-20 year is going to be interesting. We'll have sort of a lopsided experience where we are onboarding a couple first years of Say Yes, but then by 2022, 2023, which sounds so weird to say, we will have a full Say Yes contingent in the program. So first, just to sort of set the stage, Cleveland is the 4th Say Yes partner city, as Elizabeth mentioned, but we are the only city that has made mentoring a formal requirement of the program. And you might wonder why that is, but it's because we have such a track record and of success and of helping our students get through college. And that really is due to each and every one of you, our mentors. We could not do this work without all of you. And you really have proved that mentoring can actually have an effect and move the needle for graduation. So we wanted to take a moment and thank all of you for your dedication, your commitment, everything that you do to help make your students successful, because that ultimately makes our program and our region successful as well. So obviously Say Yes represents a huge community investment of all kinds of resources. I think primarily what we're hearing in the news right now is the financial piece, but we are, of course, going to be an important part of helping capitalize on that investment and get students through college as well. So looking again at the charts, in 2019, 2020, we're projecting welcoming 900 freshman students to the program, which is that big blue bar, which will essentially double our program size in a single year. By the 2022-2023 year, we're expecting to have around 3,000 students in the program, and that's just students, so 3,000 pairs, essentially. So we need your help. Here comes our pitch. Please, if everybody on this webinar recruited maybe just 3 people, we would be able to get to a third of our recruitment goal right now. So encourage people within your network to think about becoming mentors. You all have a lot of power you don't realize, I think, but most of the people that we work with who tell us how they heard about the program indicate they were referred by a current mentor. So by virtue of your role with us, and you know what this is, what's entailed, you know the skills necessary, when you say to somebody else, hey, I think you make a great mentor, that carries a lot of weight. So consider helping us by doing that. There are a couple different ways that you can help us in that way. After this webinar, I will send out, again, social media templates that were sent out, I think, in January. You can definitely use those to post on your own private networks. And we also have a site through the College Now website that's Nominate a Mentor. And that enables you to send an e-card to someone. So it's sort of a lighter touch. We have a couple different options for ways you can interest people. If you have someone who really loves numbers and charts, you can use something with numbers and charts. If you have someone that wants quotes or pictures or that side of things, we have those available as well. And then also please consider having us come into your workplace, your professional organization, church, book club, neighborhood watch party, anything like that. I'm happy to come out and give a brief spiel, or if you want to do that, I can help you feel comfortable with some talking points and some materials that you can use as well. And then also, please bear in mind, our deadline is April 1st. So it is kind of coming up here. We're already midway through February, but this is the best time essentially to recruit someone because they have very little time to wait. So encourage them to get involved if they've been considering it. This is the perfect time, and we definitely have a need for them. All right, did anybody have any additional questions? Let's see. Okay, yeah, we do have some about the eligibility of the scholarship. Wow, okay. Let's see. All right, so going back to scholarship eligibility, is a student eligible for financial support if they are part-time in their final semester? Would that be an appeals scenario, Bob? They're part-time in their final semester?
So before college graduation, there would be an appeals process for that. So they would have to write an appeal of why they would be going part-time. And that would be approved. There isn't going to be an appeals board that would look at that appeal to determine whether or not they're eligible.
So College Now is not determining that?
Correct.
College Now does not determine any eligibility or appeal decisions.
All right, another question, will the professionals offering the wraparound services all be volunteers or hired as employees through CMFP or Say Yes?
They will have
Okay, sorry about that. We have reconfigured ourselves, so we hopefully will not disconnect the call again. But Elizabeth was answering about the volunteers versus professionals working in the schools for wraparound services.
Yeah, so the organizations who provide services, the wraparound services in CMSD will have contracts with the district through Say Yes. They are not volunteers. Okay. And they are also not CMSD or Say Yes employees. They are employees of the organizations that provide the services.
Do we have a sense yet of which organizations would be more involved in that, or not yet?
I honestly have no idea.
Okay. All right. Can the Say Yes scholarship be used for full-time enrollment in workforce training and or certificates?
As long as they're Pell eligible, yes.
And as long as it's at a state institution or an approved private school, part of the compact private schools.
Okay. For those of us that have graduating seniors as our mentees this year, will we be automatically matched again this fall, or do we need to apply to be a mentor again? Thank you for that question. We have Ronnie Colburn sitting right here, who is overseeing mentor onboarding. But just to, maybe she can jump in if I'm not getting this exactly correct. But basically, we will be contacting everyone who has a graduating senior, or we have contacted them in some cases, and we will be asking you if you would like to consider taking on another student and working with us again. As part of that outreach, we will let you know what you would need to do should you be interested. So in some cases, you would just need to do a background check. In some cases, there'd be an additional step, but we will let you know in your case, and thank you for your interest. Another question relating to mentor recruitment, someone has asked, what is the ideal mix of new mentors from the standpoint of gender, culture, race, etc.? So we always attempt to reflect the demographics of our student population as much as possible, and of course we have same gender matching, so we are required to recruit the same number of male mentors as male students, for example, or those who identify that way. This year is a little bit harder for us to, I guess, to project, because we've never had the Say Yes cohort coming into the program. Normally we would be able to, more or less rely on a 60-40 split female-male. So it might throw it off slightly, but we will certainly let you know if, be on the lookout for communications from us if we feel that we're behind in an area as we see more and more students applying and we have a better sense of who's coming in. We will let you know, but typically we do struggle a little bit more in getting male mentors interested in the program. So if you have a male person in your life who you think would be a great mentor, please let them know. In terms of other demographic background, we really do welcome everyone to mentor, and of course we're very interested and we actively recruit our recent alumni because they have that firsthand experience of going through the program. If you have someone that maybe wasn't necessarily in our program, but might have graduated from CMSD or might have had some of the same life experiences, you all are mentors, so you kind of know the large, just disparate backgrounds that our students do have. Please refer those folks to the program too. Basically, anyone that you feel would have some good advice for a student and would have that empathy. That's really the quality we look for the most, is that empathy and the ability to listen and really connect with the student. Okay. Will college now still have the ability to host large events to meet your mentee? That's a great question. We actually are exploring that ourselves. The plan right now is to maintain that option as long as possible. So we will let you know when or if that ever changes significantly. But for the moment, the kickoff is still planned to occur the way it would have. We will just likely have more than one kickoff event instead of a single kickoff event. So again, stay tuned for information on that. I apologize, I don't have a clear answer for you, but we're all discovering how to make this work as best as possible ourselves. All right, does anyone have any additional questions? I'm gonna check and see if anyone got their hand raised that didn't have a question already. Okay. Okay, well, before we let you go, I did want to ask if Elizabeth would clarify something I've seen a lot in the news and I've actually been asked about, not on this webinar, but in other venues. Are there any public funds that are going into this program?
No, it's all privately raised dollars.
Okay.
So no tax dollars, no, nothing like that.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they wanted to put on the record or talk about? No? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to let you go early here today. We apologize for the various technical difficulties. And we did have a couple of questions come up about having access to the slide deck. We will be releasing this webinar is recorded, so we will be sending that out to you. And as I mentioned, anybody who is on this call, I will also send you the social media templates again. And additionally, where you can find the Become a Mentor. And I'm putting that on your screen right now as well. If you're not following us on our social media outlets, please do that as well. We do push out Say Yes to Education information, and I believe Say Yes also has some social media up and running as well, which you can probably find on their website, the sayyescleveland.org. All right, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and please go out and recruit 3 more friends to mentor.